You're watching the Real Talk Tulsa Webcast, and today we're talking about the top 5 landmines to avoid when you're working on diversity and inclusion. The first landmine is thinking that diversity and inclusion is just a numbers game. This is when companies just think that if you have the right number of the right kinds of people, then you have a diverse workplace and you're done. Bean counting is not the way to get to diversity and inclusion. It's not just about compliance, and it's definitely not about quotas. Landmine number 2 is only thinking externally. This is when all you're thinking about is recruitment, or just marketing. Marketing and recruiting is certainly part of a diversity and inclusion initiative, but usually those come later, because you really need to get your house in order before you start inviting people over. Diversity and inclusion is really about changing the culture, your practices, and all of your internal stuff before you have anyone come into that space who is maybe more diverse than the workforce you're working with. Landmine number 3 is only focusing on visible forms of diversity. This is when you think it's just about race or just about gender. In fact, diversity is about all kinds of different ways that people are different and the same as one another. So focusing just on the outside kind of misses the point. Landmine number 4 is making diversity just about those people. Whoever the other is in your organization, they shouldn't be the ones who are doing all the heavy lifting. Diversity and inclusion is really effective when everyone is at the table. It's also not super helpful to just focus on the superficial stuff, what I call Taco Tuesdays, and treating the majority of your workforce like they're the default and everyone else needs to accommodate them. And landmine number 5 is when you don't empower your diversity and inclusion initiative. This can mean not giving it enough funding so that it really doesn't have anywhere to go, or this can mean that there's no real power, which means you can't actually change anything, you don't have the ear of your CEO, your executive director, or whoever's in charge, and ultimately the initiative doesn't really go anywhere because it doesn't have any power. So why are these so common? Most of the time, organizations are really well-intended. They want to do the right thing, and they look around, and what they see is the stuff that's visible. It's really hard to see the work that gets done inside an organization to change the culture, to change the policies and the practices. Nonetheless, that stuff is really, really important, because unless you have a strong foundation, you can't really build anything on top of it. I once worked with a client that really wanted to increase its numbers of Latinos in its organization. So they did what you might think they would do. They went and they put out an ad in a Spanish language paper. Makes sense, right? Well, first time someone called in response to that ad, there wasn't anyone at the organization they could talk to because there wasn't anyone who spoke Spanish there. Classic example of putting recruitment ahead of inclusion. So if you're starting a diversity and inclusion initiative in your organization, be sure to watch for these landmines. Thanks for watching the Real Talk Tulsa Webcast. I'm Anna Tahai, Director of Mission Impact with YWCA.